What's up, YouTube? Dustin Riddle here. We're going to talk about my 2007 XR650L. Here it is. So, the mods that I've done to this bike, we're going to kind of go through this from the essentials down to what you can sort of do without. It sort of depends on what kind of a rider you are. So, the first off must-do mods are going to be the handlebar risers. These bars are sitting in your lap when you buy the bike. I'm 6'1", 240 pounds, and I just hated standing up on this bike. I got the 1 1/4 inch handlebar risers, and they made my life a lot easier. Secondly is going to be the smog delete, and it was relatively inexpensive. It was very easy. It cost me about I believe less than $20, so definitely invest in that next. This is a 350-pound bike, and man, with a 37-inch seat height, you really need to lose as much weight as you possibly can. So I would say the next thing you need to do is take off all of this rear tail light and turn signal assembly, as well as the turn signal assembly in the front, and replace it with your aftermarket 600R XR600R tail light. These are Bike Master turn signals. It's just a really weird set of turn signals I found, and then I night shaded them because I didn't like the amber bulb look. So that's going to be the next thing. And I did go ahead and something small. I removed my chain guard here, which was just a black piece that went here. I much prefer the motocross look over the chain guard thing there. I did do the uni sponge air filter there versus the stock filter, and that kind of runs in line with some of the other mods that I did. I also removed the snorkel from this bike, and I did the battery box delete here, which was just a big clunky battery box that came off the side here. It weighed about 10 pounds with the battery included. It has your CDI box and your fuse box inside. And then I replaced it with an XR600R side panel, and I cut it to fit. Another thing that you desperately need to do to this bike is you need to get the Frisco front sprocket. This is a 15-tooth front sprocket. A lot of guys are putting the 14-tooth on here to make it a little bit snappier. That does mean you will have to change gears more often. But above all, you definitely need to replace the stock front sprocket on this thing, because it will wear into the countershaft spline, and it will ruin it, and you have to, it's a major repair that can be avoided for just less than $30 if you go through Frisco or through Rocky Mountain ATV. Or you can also get a front sprocket from the XR600R and put it on here, and that will also save your countershaft sprocket. So definitely do that right out of the gate. Also, your exhaust is going to be huge. I went ahead and put on the Big Gun Evo R exhaust on this bike, just because I'm really trying to turn this more like into a street legal XR600R. The stock exhaust works fine if you are still trying to uncork your bike, but you like the quiet sound of the bike. That's fine. For myself, I do a lot of off-road riding, and I really want this big 650 single thumper to breathe. So I did go ahead and slap the Big Gun Evo R on here. It's loud as hell, and honestly, it sounds like an uncorked Harley. So I would recommend getting yourself a silencer for it. It is the cheapest exhaust that you're going to find for this bike. It's going to give it about 8 to 10 more horsepower. So definitely worthwhile doing that. The foot pegs on this bike are kind of small, especially for a lot of guys that buy these bikes are bigger anyways. And I I am 6'1", I'm 240 pounds, and this tiny little peg here just was not enough for my size 14 foot. So I went ahead and went with the much bigger, wider foot peg, and it really gives me much more control of the bike. I feel a lot more comfortable. I don't consider it a must. It's just kind of rider specific, but it really helped me a ton. Another thing that I consider really important on bikes is our bark busters, and that's just because, like, this bike is set up for off-road. So if you're going to be riding off-road, go ahead and get yourself some bark busters, because if you find yourself taking turns really tight, especially in the mountains, you're going to definitely hit branches. It'll save your hands, but more importantly, it's going to protect your levers. You're going to drop your bike, and the first thing that's going to go are your levers. And you definitely don't want to have to limp your bike home with a broken front brake, or a broken clutch, or a front brake. So go ahead and get yourself some bark busters. It's great, and hey, aesthetically it looks amazing. I got these from a service probably for under 40 bucks. I did go ahead and get the Pro Taper pillow top hand grips, just because I really like them. I like them a lot. I also went with the Metal Militia donuts. That's good aesthetically, but it matched my color scheme, and it helps to protect your hand, especially if you're doing a lot of off-road riding. Not a must, but really great. I went ahead and went with the Pro Taper crossbar guard that helped with the you know, I kept you can get these online in a lot of different color varieties. I went with this because I'm trying to keep the same look on my bike. I imagine that a lot of you guys are going to be like, well, it's an 07, but you know what? This is a late 90s model gas tank. I went with it because I really love the dramatic graphics. I don't like the bold new graphics that came with this bike. I realize this is a very small tank if you're going to be riding. So I didn't, you know, there's Clark's actually sells a 5-gallon gas tank for this guy. It just makes it just too big, man. I mean, it just sort of depends on what you're using this bike for. Options are available with this bike in abundance. You can build this bike however you want. Personally, I wanted the 90s throwback. I got the 90s throwback. I used the front fairings from my 07 and two-toned it. I think it looks great. I love it. Only other thing I can tell you guys is, you know, I set this bike up strictly for off-road riding, and whenever I want to slap it on the street to get to a trail I can, no doubt it's going to rub through my knobbies, but who cares? I mean, I've basically created a street legal XR650L here. You know, obviously the engine's very different, the weight's very different, but I really wanted the most lightweight, most powerful bike that you could get without having to spend a ton of money. You know, I mean, ideally we'd all own, you know, KTMs, but we, you know, for me, it fit in my price range, and I just slowly did these mods to it as I saw fit. And I also do want to talk to you guys about the tires I'm running. I realize when you're going through YouTube, you might see something on a bike and you're like, man, I really want to know what kind of tires he's running, or what, you know, what kind of, you know, where he lives, or how he's got his carb set up. And my rear tire is a Pirelli 110 118 Scorpion. 80, yeah, it's a Pirelli 110 18 Scorpion. My front tire is an 80 121 Geomax motocross Dunlop tire, and I've got my carb tuned here in North Carolina at 3,500 feet. I've got my carb dialed in and tuned with a 55 158, and I've got my needle shimmed. I have not done the full Dave's mods on here. I have ground down my air fuel mixture screw, and I have shinned my needle, and I have not yet drilled my slide to the 5/32. But this bike, since I've done the needle shimming and since I put the 55-158 key-in jets in this bike at 3,500 feet, it has really helped the stock lean condition with this bike. And since I've taken out my snorkel, and since I've put the Uni high performance sponge air filter in here, it's done wonders for the bike. And I would like for you guys to come over here and take a look at everything I've removed from this bike. And altogether, I think this bike has just about lost close to 20 pounds, maybe just a little bit more. And you can see this is the side battery box that I was talking to you guys about. This battery, 7 pounds. The lithium ion Shirai battery has got double the cold cranking amps, and it only weighs half a pound, if you can even believe that. This is the snorkel. This is the license plate assembly. This is the taillight assembly. These are the turn signals. I mean, can you even believe that? These are the foot pegs. These are the bark busters without the bar guard. This is the handlebars. These are the mirrors, and this is the exhaust. Go ahead and do yourself a favor. If you want a bike that is going to be dominating off-road, but still allow you to be able to throw it on the street, I mean, unless you just have wads of money to throw away, the XR650L still stands above and beyond, for sure. I am really excited right now because I am going to be able to give you guys an all-around really good review of this. Is actually an 07 XR650L, and I have done a ton of things to this bike, and I really love it. It still needs more to fit my riding style, but really right now this video is just specifically going to show the difference between stock exhaust and adding a big gun exhaust to this machine. My bike is not tuned really well right now. It's still got the factory lean condition happening, so it is going to be, I'm going to pull the choke a little bit to compensate for a little bit of that. But basically I want you guys to be able to hear what it's going to sound like just sitting here idling. And I'm gonna go to into my driveway and come back, so you can sort of gauge the difference in at least in sound of what it's like to compare the stock exhaust to the big gun. It's pretty warm right now, so. Choke off. All right, you guys, so the big gun is on, and already, like, it just completely transformed the entire look of the bike, and it looks awesome. So let's see how it sounds.
it's really loud.
Tell me, just what is it that you want to do?
Well, we want to be free. We want to be free to do what we want to do. We want to be free to ride. We want to be free to ride our machines without being hassled by the man. And we want to get loaded. And we want to have a good time. That's what we're going to do. We're going to have a good time. We're going to have a party.
Catch you on the flip side. Catch you on the flip side. Catch you on the flip side. Catch you on the flip side.